Hello, my friends. Emily Johnson here with the Art of Senior Fitness Program Design. It is 12:30 Eastern, 10:30 Mountain, and 9:30 Pacific. I'm usually on a little bit earlier than this, but was doing a couple things behind the scenes here. So let's make sure we're live and that you're with me. There we go. We're live on LinkedIn. Hello, everyone. And let's make sure we're live on Facebook. There we go, live on Facebook as well. I am with you guys. Oh, let's turn that off so I'm not in the background talking to you. So good afternoon, good morning, everyone. If you've never had this alert pop up for you before and you're like, what is this? My name is Emily Johnson and this is the Art of Senior Fitness Program Design. It is a weekly series that I've been doing. This is episode 16. We've been doing this for 4 months, guys. So I'm really proud and excited and I love to bring you guys this content every week. I am the founder and creative director of StrongerU Senior Fitness and I would love for everyone watching to become a StrongerU Senior Fitness instructor. But if that's not possible, if that's not something that you can take on right now, then that is why I do these weekly 30-minute webinars to give you some education to help you become a better fitness or recreation professional. And if you're wondering, who is this series for? This is anyone who's in fitness and recreation, anyone who oversees or supports people in fitness or recreation working with older adults. So let's jump right into it. And if you can't stick around for today, that's okay. Please feel free to visit the StrongerU Senior Fitness Facebook and LinkedIn pages. Please like and follow on those pages so you can get alerts for things like this, okay? And also all of our episodes are on our StrongerU Senior Fitness YouTube channel as well. So you can go there to check them out. All right, let's get into it. So episode 16, we are talking about balance training and falls prevention today. And I think this is actually a really timely topic. I sort of just talk about whatever I want in let me just open this here. I talk about whatever I want in different, oh, let me stop this here. Okay, there we go. I talk about whatever I want kind of week to week, or if you have something that you'd love to hear me talk about, please feel free, put that in the comments, or you can message me. My email is there on the screen. But I think this is a really timely topic because we've been living through the COVID-19 pandemic, and that's meant that people are staying home. We're not being as active. And when we're not as active, any individual, no matter their age, can lose up to 30% of their physical ability, their cardiovascular ability, their strength, mobility. So we are now hearing, thankfully, some news of different provinces starting to reopen, and we're going to be allowed to, in some capacities, start getting out into the world again. And I think this is where we're really going to see what the physical toll has been of this time. So if you work with older adults, one thing that's going to be a big concern is what has been that decline and how does that relate to preventing falls with the individuals that you work with. So let's get right into it here. I want to start by going over some stats, and there's a lot of stats on this page. I apologize, I would not normally put this much on one slide, so stay with me. Don't just go ahead and read them. I'm going to walk you through each of them, but I want you to know why this is such a big deal. And the first stat here, these stats are from one of the last big studies that was done in Canada, so a few years old, but in 2017 to 2018, more than 137,500 older adults were hospitalized for injuries, okay? So these are injuries of all kind, and hospitalization means spending 1 or more nights in the hospital, okay? 80% of those were due to falls, okay? 110,000 older adults ended up in a hospital from 2017 to 2018 because they experienced a fall. Okay, and then let's talk about those who didn't maybe make it into the hospital. Maybe they just went to the ER. 60% of ER visits of older adults were due to a fall, and then 20% of those individuals who went to the ER were then admitted to the hospital as a result of that fall. And then the other 80% got to go home. So again, this is really, really staggering. And if we look at all the reasons that Canadians end up in the hospital for injuries, seniors accounted for more than half of all of those injuries. So again, this is really important. It's huge in Canada. I know we have all these things to worry about. I'm sure you've heard, or maybe you haven't, but heard the saying, oh, we've got this 2030 problem. Well, the 2030 problem is that by the year 2030, over 9.5 million people in Canada are going to be over the age of 65. Okay. And if we are seeing that half of those going to hospital are older adults, as our population ages, that becomes a real problem. Okay. More than 1.6 million seniors fall each year, so between 20 to 30% of older adults. So if we go to the year 2030, we're going to have 9.5 million seniors in Canada. 20 to 30% of that is about 1.9 to 2.85 million seniors having a fall each year. That's huge. And again, you can see it on the screen already, so you know where I'm going with this. This is the good news. This is the silver lining in all of this, that 90% of falls are preventable. Okay, so I really want us to focus on that piece, that falls are indeed preventable, and we can do an amazing job at preventing these falls. Okay, with me? Let's do it. So what are some of the outcomes of falls? Again, I don't want you to think like, oh yeah, falls, yeah, there's a lot of them happening. It's, costing us money. But I want to talk about some of the other outcomes of falls that we might not always think of. So when someone has a fall, they have an increased fear of falling again. And as a result of that, anyone, no matter what age, is probably going to think twice before doing that activity which resulted in the fall again. So let's say an older adult was heading down to their mailbox to get the mail. Maybe it was the first snowfall of the year. Maybe there's a bit of black ice and they had a fall on the way to the mailbox. Now they're going to be less inclined to walk to that mailbox to get their mail again. And so that's a very kind of simple example, but that does lead to isolation. That leads to people staying home and not doing the things they do. What if they were walking down, maybe they love to go for a walk in nature and they trip over a tree root. This thing that they love has now been marred by this event. And maybe they're thinking, oh, you know what? Maybe I've reached that time where I'm too old to go walking in the woods. And I know I'm painting this really glim picture of like, all these older adults falling. And I don't want to paint a picture of frailty though, because so many of the older adults that I know and love are so strong. They're so creative. They're so independent. And even those strong, creative, independent individuals can have a little step of the toe, a little, interaction with some ice and can have a fall. And then they stop doing the things that kept them independent, creative, and amazing. So this is a really big problem. We see that a loss of autonomy. When you can't do the things you do anymore, that can lead to depression. And again, if we go kind of back to the medical things, direct cause of 95% of all hip fractures. If you've worked with older adults for any amount of time now, you've seen it where, that older adult you work with, they had a fall. Maybe they were doing great. They had a fall, they had a hip fracture, and actually 20% of those hip fractures can actually lead to death. So, and maybe not directly, but we see things like they're in hospital, they lose strength, they lose mobility, they can get complications. Things like pneumonia and other things from not moving. And then we see this really sad downward spiral and you're like, wow, that person was doing great until they had that fall. So I really want to hammer home how important this is. And then of course there is that financial cost as well. So an estimated $2 billion is directly related annually to falls. So something for us to keep in mind as well, as we all pay our taxes and need to support our older adults, that this as well is going to be something that is of consequence to our economy. All right, and if you have any questions or suggestions, best practices as we're going, don't forget, throw them down in the comments. I will read them out for the opposite platform and we'll go from there, okay? Now, let's talk about how we balance. There is many systems in our body that work together to create balance. So your eyes look at your surroundings, they send that information to the brain. Your brain makes decisions based on what it sees. So let's say it sees a change from carpet to hardwood, maybe one of those little, I don't know what they're called, they're like little metal dividers between the two areas. Your brain says, okay, legs, we have to lift up and over that divide in the floor. Your inner ears. So this is where when you go on a merry-go-round or a spinning thing and you start to get dizzy because that inner ear, that vestibular system is off balance. Or if you're like me and you get car sick because your body and your brain, all these systems cannot come together and reconcile the fact of what's happening. I don't feel like I'm moving, but I can see things are moving. And so that plays a role into balance. And then proprioceptions, the sense of where our body is in space. If I put my hand out in front here, but I have my eyes closed, I know my hand is out in front of me because of proprioception. Obviously, I had my eyes closed when I put my hand there, but if I close my eyes, put my hand up, I know where my hand is in space because of proprioception. And then all of these systems work together with our muscles and bones. As I said, your brain telling your muscles to, hey, lift that foot up and over that barrier, or whoa, we're on some ice here. Let's, muscles, we need to contract and we need to modify and adapt to this predicament that we've gotten ourselves in. So all of these systems work together. And then lastly, I don't have this on the slide, but having our center of gravity over our base of support. So when we're just standing tall and we've got our feet on the ground and we've got our hips just kind of right in line, everything's in line, our center of gravity is coming right down our body. If you think about leaning forward, what do you usually do? You lean forward and you put your hips back. And that is so we can, again, get that center of gravity over that base of support. So what we see with a fall is when our center of gravity goes outside the base of support, maybe we lean too far forward and our muscles and our bones and our systems cannot create the needed reaction in order to get that center of gravity back over that base of support. Okay. Let's talk about some of the causes of falls. So lots and lots of causes here. There's a chart. I know lots of words. I went kind of word crazy with this presentation, but I'll walk you through it. So acute conditions, that could be weakness, nausea, dizziness. So things that kind of happen in the moment and you're not yourself. This can happen at any age whatsoever where you've got weakness and you have a fall because of it. Chronic conditions, so things like Parkinson's or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, stroke, heart conditions, all of these things can lead to possible changes that result in falls. Balance or gait deficits. So when we age, our body changes. We have changes in the speed of our walking. We have changes in how high we lift up our feet as we're walking. We have changes in walking heel toe or starting to shuffle. So all of these changes in our balance and the gait. It could be cognitive impairment. So it could be your brain is having changes. The older adults you're working with are having changes and they no longer can make that connection in the brain of, oh, there is a change or there's a stair. I need to lift my foot up and over to go over that, okay? Sensory factors, okay? Not being able to see, not being able to hear. You've heard of maybe people getting vertigo, things like this, where the senses are off, and so we have trouble balancing. Muscle weakness and reduced fitness. So you need to be able to carry your body in order to stay upright, in order to keep that center of gravity over that base of support. If your legs become fatigued as you're walking and you can't keep them kind of going in front of your body and your torso starts to go forward more, legs aren't keeping up, then yeah, you're going to fall over. Or if you've lost some of that aerobic capacity, your cardiovascular is not where it was. This might be part of what we see right now with coming out of COVID-19 is we're not walking around or going out as much as we normally would. And as a result, we're getting winded a lot easier. I don't know about you, but I find when I go to the grocery store, like my throat is dry being out in navigating, and it's because I'm not leaving my house. Okay, so whatever age you are, we are going to see these declines, and if your heart cannot beat as efficiently as it was before COVID-19, and it can't get that oxygen and that nutrient rich blood to the muscles that need it, then again, you're going to see that risk of falling because you can't keep up. Behavioral factors. So these are sort of choices you make. So improper nutrition. You need to make sure you eat. Okay. I'm guilty of this. Sometimes I get excited about the work I'm doing. I have my breakfast at 7 a.m. and by the time 5 a.m. hits, I go, oh, wow, I haven't eaten today. So those behavioral factors will come into our fitness and our balance. It could be that, hey, your doctor has said you need to start using a walker. And as a result, you're like, no, I don't want to do that. So you choose not to use the walker and you get into trouble. And I want to make a note about walkers at this point because there is a stigma. A lot of older adults do not want to use a walker. And it's very obvious symbol of maybe that they can't get around on their own. But what I would say about walkers is really important to just shoulders down and back, nice and tall, using that walker, pushing it in front of you versus leaning down over onto it. Okay, I know we end up seeing a lot of that. That's really important. So if you're working with older adults who are new to using a walker, you got to keep saying to them, shoulders down and back, push it in front of you. It's not meant to be hung on to for dear life. If you're having to hang on to it for dear life, I think it's gone too far and you probably should have had a walker a lot sooner. We're at the point where it could just support you versus having to carry you. Okay, environmental factors. So like I said, getting into some snow or some ice, that change in the flooring, and medication. Medication is actually huge. The older adults in your life, if they're experiencing dizziness or falls, go to their doctor, have them check out their medication. Sometimes medications can have different interactions with each other. And as a result, we can see dizziness and falls happening. Now, I want to turn your attention to the chart, the pie chart here, because it's really interesting. It's the causes of falls or the areas associated with falls. And I want to point out a few to you. So 4% of falls were engaged in other sport or physical activity. So that's an interesting point. People think, oh, I had a fall, I shouldn't overdo it, I shouldn't exercise because I don't want to fall again. Well, very little falls actually happen while engaging in physical activity. And engaging in that physical activity is going to ensure that the older adult maybe won't fall again. Or if they fall, they're able to recover a lot easier. Then the next one, 16%, pretty high up down at the bottom there, is walking on snow or ice. Okay, so yeah, we would kind of think that, yeah, that's probably going to be a problem. So again, that's pretty big. But the biggest one, the one I want to draw your attention to, is walking on any other surface. So what this tells us is it's probably not so much the surface or the activity as much as it is the other things that we're looking at here. Okay. Make sure we're still good here. Excellent. All right. So you're like, Emily, come on, we get this, get to the good stuff here. How are we going to prevent falls? I'm getting there. I want to drive it home how important this is. So number one, proper footwear. And that again goes for all ages. If you think of someone who doesn't wear heels and puts on a pair of heels and then falls because they're not used to it, that is the importance of proper footwear. But not just heels. It could be slippers where you really don't have the ability to lift up your foot because if the slipper doesn't have a backing, it's going to fall off. So we start to see that shuffle. And if we don't keep lifting our knees as we walk, we will lose that ability to lift our knees as we walk. So slippers is really important. Take a look. Are the older adults you're serving or the older adults in your life, are they really kind of shuffling along because they're always wearing slippers that don't have proper support? It could be that they had running shoes for 10 years, 20 years. I've met so many older adults where they're like, I only wear these shoes to my fitness class. I've had them 10 years and look at, they're still beautiful on the outside. But on the inside, the support is wearing away and it's not providing them with that security they need to interact properly with their environment. Supports and assistive devices, I've talked about this, and making sure if you got a walker, got a cane, you're standing up nice and tall, you're using it as a maybe in case they get in trouble versus putting your entire weight on that walker. proper nutrition, getting all those vitamins, minerals, nutrients that we need in order to interact effectively with our environment, adequate sleep. So as we age, we see older adults are less hungry. Sometimes that's due to changing senses. It could be food doesn't taste as good without a ton of salt on it, or it could be that and then for adequate sleep, we can see that people are not maybe sleeping as well as they age. So we're going to talk about preventing falls exercise in a minute here. But exercise can also help you eat more because you're exercising, you're more hungry, so you're going to eat more. And it can also help you sleep better because you're more tired and able to sleep better. And then, as I mentioned, review of medications. Really important review of medication to see if there's any interactions happening. Sometimes, every once in a while, a doctor will add a medication that's needed to help this thing. And as a result, you have a new problem, which is that dizziness or that effect on your balance. Okay. But now let's focus on the exercise bit. Okay. So number one, measuring balance. Before we get to the exercise, and this would be great. I really feel coming out of COVID-19, this is a time when I would really, really recommend that you do some fitness testing with your older adults. I haven't firmed this up yet, so I'm speaking a little bit prematurely, but in a few weeks, I actually want to do some fitness testing and balance testing work with you guys. So let me get back to you on that. But a really easy way to measure balance is using the test that's here on the screen. So standing feet side by side, if they can do that with no support for 30 seconds, great, move on to the next one, semi-tandem stance, full tandem, and then can they stand on one foot, no support, okay? And if you find that is not sensitive enough, maybe your population is more active, another test I recommend is the Berg Balance Scale. So there's 14 activities you do. They're scored from 1 to 4, and a score of less than, there's a maximum of 56, and if you score less than 45, it's associated with a risk of falling. And I will just show it to you here. I've got it up here. So this is the Berg Balance test. You can see some of the things that you're doing as part of this test. A little bit more advanced. So if you've got a background in kinesiology or you've been teaching fitness for a long time, this would be something I would recommend more for someone who has been a fitness instructor and really knows what they're doing. This can be tough for a first-time instructor to get into. Or if you have any partnerships with physiotherapy or PTA, physiotherapy assistants, occupational therapy assistants, this is something that they could help you with. So we'll talk about that in a couple weeks, okay? So you want to create fitness programs that help you to improve the balance of the older adults you're working with. And I picked this picture. It's kind of funny because I always say, I think it's so hilarious when people just stand on one foot and they're balancing and they think that they're working on their balance. And to some extent it is, but really if you're only just standing on one leg, you're really just getting good at standing on one leg, okay? So you have to incorporate the items on the screen here to really get that benefit. So you need strength. You need that strength in that lower body. You even need strength in the upper body, because in the event of a fall or you lose your balance, if you're able to grab that chair or if you're able to brace yourself on the floor, then you're going to be a lot better off, okay? Coordination is huge. When we have all these systems working together, the eyes, the vestibular system, proprioception, the muscles, the joints, they need to coordinate and work together. Hand-eye coordination, reaction time. We'll talk about these more in a second. Agility. Are you agile enough to respond to what's happening in your environment and the reason why you might be falling? Flexibility. Again, if you don't have that flexibility in your ankle, if you don't have the flexibility in the hips, in the muscles, then you can find yourself getting into a situation where if you could just kind of stretch that leg back a little bit more or interact differently, you might have prevented that fall. And then cardiovascular fitness. As I said before, if your heart can't get those nutrients to your lungs and to your muscles, and then your muscles aren't going to be able to do their job of keeping you upright. Okay. So I want to talk about StrongerU Circuit. For those who don't know, StrongerU Senior Fitness is Canada's first pre-choreographed senior fitness series. We have 4 program types. So when you become a fitness instructor with StrongerU, you get a monthly instructional video and choreography notes that you learn and teach exactly as outlined. And one of those 4 programs that you get is StrongerU Circuit, and it is our balance-based program. And so in every StrongerU Circuit class, this is what we go through. We start with a cardiovascular warm-up because, as I said, we need to get that heart working. We need to get the muscles and the joints warm, and that is going to ensure that we can move on to the work. Then what we focus on is coordination drills with the use of a ball. So just like you see these ladies in the picture here using the balls, we'll do things like tossing and bouncing, partner work, group work, all these different things to work on coordination. Now, I want to make a point about this now because I didn't mention it before, but the number 1 reason that older adults end up in hospital is a fall. The number 2 reason is due to driving accidents. And number 3 is collision with other people or objects. So I don't know about you, but all of those top 3 things sound like they are related to movement and coordination and being able to appropriately, successfully interact with your environment. So coordination is so important. If your fitness program is not including an aspect of coordination right now, you need to add it immediately, okay? And then we do balance stances as part of StrongerU Circuit, but it's less about the balance stance, like standing on one leg, and it's more about the other things we're doing. So we'll do things like looking side to side. We'll do things like taking that ball, putting it around our back, putting the ball side to side, tossing that ball. And so we're creating that outside stimuli that we have to focus on in addition to standing on one leg or standing in a tandem stance, okay? And then with all of our programs, we end with a stretch, okay? You all know this about me, and if you don't, now you do. I believe we do way too much stretching in older adult fitness, but it is important to end every program with a stretch because it's going to help with recovery. We're going to see sore muscles and things like that, muscles kind of tightening up. We want to maintain that flexibility and that range of motion. And also, like I said, flexibility is important for interacting with your environment, for preventing falls. So stretching, again, is so important when it comes to that. Now, let's talk about different ways that you can incorporate coordination into your program. So as I said, ball exercises. You could do ball exercises with the feet, with the hands, partner work, group work, all these things. There's about a million things you can do with the ball. Excuse me. Balloon badminton, okay? Now, if you don't work in senior living and you're thinking, oh my God, this is that stereotypical picture of older adults, playing balloon badminton, right? Like no one wants to go there. But I will tell you, first of all, balloon badminton, a lot of fun. We do get it pretty competitive with the older adults that I've played balloon badminton with, and it is an excellent cardiovascular and coordination exercise. So I would put out there, once you're able to get back into the world, try this. Maybe do it with your grandkids or your kids, whatever. If you're an adult, do it while you're drinking with your friends. Okay, see how you do. It's actually really great coordination, no matter your age. And so you can do things. Pretend I'm holding a little fly swatter or a badminton racket here. If you're taking that balloon and you're kind of bouncing it up and down, you're bouncing hand on the camera there, up, and then flipping the hand, right? That's going to be hard. 2 on one hand, 2 on the other, so switching sides. You can go back and forth, switch back and forth. So you don't have to just play balloon badminton. You can actually do drills that are going to help with coordination. Games like ladder ball, darts, beanbag, ring toss, mini putt, bocce, horseshoes, bowling, all of these things are a lot of fun and they're very good for you. If we look at the gentleman here playing bocce, he right now, you can't see his legs, but he would have to be in a staggered stance, so 1 foot in front of the other, kind of like standing on a railroad tracks. not quite as wide, but you get the picture. And he's got that ball. He's going to take it back and he's going to toss it. So this is a great exercise in coordination and balance. He's standing, he's getting outside, all the benefits that come with that, the cardiovascular benefit of doing that. So these are really kind of sneaky ways to get the older adults you work with to practice coordination. Discs, so colored, numbered shapes. I know I'm going over time, guys. If you have to go, please feel free just to watch it afterwards, but I do want to get through my last few slides here, so if you can stick around, great. So discs, if you've got colored discs on the floor, okay? Let's say you're going to do, put my camera down a little bit here. Let's say you're doing, there in the middle, bicep curls. And as you're doing bicep curls, I know you can't see my feet right now, but let's say you've got a red, yellow, blue, and green disc on the floor, okay? And maybe while I'm doing this, I'm saying, okay, guys, we're gonna do red, yellow, blue. And on the floor, the feet have to go red, yellow, blue, red, yellow, blue, red, yellow, blue, wherever they are. I know I'm kind of going all over the place. You'd obviously stay with wherever your red, yellow, and blue are. This is a way to coordinate both doing an exercise as well as moving your feet. Or maybe you give them numbers, 5, 3, 7, or maybe it's a shape, star, square, triangle. And it's a way for you to be able to focus on multiple things. Okay. Use of technology. Okay, so there's some pretty cool things out there. So 2 apps that I want to talk about: Switched On and Clock Yourself. I'm glad I didn't add more apps since I'm running out of time. Switched On, very cool. That's what you see in the picture there. You actually select colors or arrows or numbers, and they'll come up on a screen. And what I would say is, if you're teaching a fitness class in a room with a TV, you can get your handy dandy iPad. I have my iPad here, and you get one of these. This is a Lightning to HDMI adapter. HDMI goes in that end, this end goes into your iPad, and this will allow you to project your iPad onto the screen without the use of an Apple TV, which can, run to $90 or more. Actually, I'm not even sure how much this may be $60. I forget how much an Apple TV is. Probably much more expensive than $90. But this is a way where, again, if let's say you have you've got posters on a wall. Red is marching. So the red color comes up on your iPad on the screen, everyone's marching. And then yellow comes up, and yellow means touch your opposite hand to your opposite knee. Okay, then they're going into that. Oh, red's back on, back to the march, okay? Oh, blue, grab your weights, time to do bicep curls. So again, these are ways where we have to adapt and remember and interact with our environment. Clock Yourself, also a very cool app. It's exactly what you think it is. It's a clock. So it's a clock that goes on the screen, like you pretend you are in the middle of the clock, and it'll come up with times, or you can actually get symbols and other things. And so maybe while you're doing your bicep curls, you step out to 3 o'clock, you step out to 10 o'clock, you step back to 5 o'clock, things like this. You can also do them, older adults, at a kitchen table. So you can hold onto the table or the chair, stepping forward, stepping back. So all these things working on balance. And the outcome, okay, I've made it to the end here. I know I talk fast, I put a lot of content into these, but the outcome is that if we can reduce falls by 20% between 2010 and 2035, that 2030 problem I've been talking about, we can save 4,400 lives and $10.8 billion. Guys, I want to put this into perspective for you. I don't want to make light of what's going on in the world right now, but I believe we're only somewhere around 2,000, maybe 3,000, I forget the number, deaths in Canada due to COVID. We are going to have more people die because of having experienced a fall than we have so far from COVID-19. Okay, so please let that sink in, that we can prevent 90% of these falls through exercise, through coordination drills, through all the things that I've talked to you about today. So please, if you are the leader of an organization, if you're supporting recreation or fitness staff, check in with them. What are they doing to help us decrease the number of falls? And we're only trying to decrease by 20%. I've seen organizations where they want to decrease the number of falls to 50%, to 0. These are big, lofty goals. And if we do that, we can really help a whole lot more. Okay. So very good. That's where I'll end it for today. I want to say thank you. I know I went over time. We'll do it again next week. And please, I love doing this. Even if you can't become a StrongerU Senior Fitness instructor, this is episode 16. I've been doing this for 4 months. I just want to continue to give you guys free content, free education. All I ask is that if you enjoyed this, please go and like the StrongerU Senior Fitness LinkedIn and Facebook pages. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. And share this video with your friends. Please reshare this on your social media platforms. We would love to get this education information out to as many as possible, even if you're not going to become a StrongerU Senior Fitness instructor. We just want to help elevate and innovate the senior fitness industry. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to be back next week with a topic on mindfulness, okay? Think very also appropriate for the times that we're in. It's how do you incorporate mindfulness practices into your programming. And I would also say that we're going to be doing some ourselves. So it'd be kind of a nice 30 minutes for you to join in on. I won't be so talkity. It will slow it down a little bit. And then the week after that, I'm hoping we will do something on fitness testing. Got some ideas around this and want to get those into place. And if I can, then we'll move forward with that. So thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please feel free, put them down in the comments, and I will see you next week. Next week we'll be back to our 12 o'clock Eastern time slot. Okay, I know we're kind of going back and forth between 12:30 and 12 Eastern Standard Time, but we will be back next week at 12 o'clock. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day, and I will see you next week. Thanks, guys.